Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. We also have Instagram and Twitter. You can find us at TPM Videos. Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Florida and Disneyland in California share many of the same rides. We've already explored the rides in Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, Adventureland, and Frontierland, so if you haven't seen those videos yet, definitely check them out. It's been a little while since those episodes, but there have been many requests to finish the comparisons. So like we've done in the past, we'll use Magic Kingdom as the model and explore the rides of Main Street and Liberty Square that can also be found at the Disneyland park. But which theme park has the better version of each of these rides? Well, that's what we're going to discuss as we count down the top Disney World vs. Disneyland rides, Main Street and Liberty Square edition. So let's begin with one of the first rides you see even before entering the park. The Disneyland Railroad and the Walt Disney World Railroad at Magic Kingdom were both opening day attractions, Disneyland in 1955 and Magic Kingdom in 1971. This steam-powered railroad takes you on a grand circle tour around the parks. The route of the Disneyland Railroad is about 1.2 miles, and the Walt Disney World Railroad is about 1.5 miles. Disneyland has 4 separate stations: Main Street, New Orleans Square, Mickey's Toontown, and Tomorrowland. Walt Disney World only has 3 stations: Main Street, Frontierland, and Fantasyland/Storybook Circus. They both offer great ways of getting to different areas of the park while experiencing a quintessential Disney ride. I don't know about you, but for me, it's not a day at the parks without going on a grand circle tour on the train. Now, the ride experience is pretty much identical, where you're met with lots of greenery, you're given a glimpse into Splash Mountain, and get unique vantage points of the park. But I'm gonna be upfront and say Disneyland does this ride the best, and I'll tell you why. First thing, you get to ride along the rivers of America on this beautiful new bridge overlooking the water. You really feel like you're being transported into a new world. Plus, you get a lot less obstructed views of Disneyland, just in general, when you compare it to Magic Kingdom. There's a lot of times where there's prolonged sections of literally nothing at Magic Kingdom. I just feel like Disneyland gives us more to look at. So those are a few of the positives of the Disneyland Railroad, but what really makes Disneyland the winner are the dioramas. This is what brings it from an average theme park train ride to a ride that has the Disney difference. Although the Disneyland Railroad was an opening day attraction, the dioramas were added later on. In 1958, they added the Grand Canyon. Then in 1966, the Primeval World made its debut, which reused the audio animatronics from the Magic Skyway at the World's Fair. The diorama has quite a bit of Disney history, since the attractions from the World's Fair set a new standard for the Disney rides and attractions of the future. Plus, these dioramas are a lot of fun and make up about 2 minutes of your train ride. So when it comes to the railroad, I'd say Disneyland has the better version of the ride. One ride that many Disney fans have their reservations on as to which version of the ride is the best is the Haunted Mansion. We all know the original Haunted Mansion was at Disneyland. It opened in August of 1969, and it's found in New Orleans Square. When the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland was being conceived, they already knew Florida would be getting their own version of the ride. So, Imagineers created duplicates of all the sets and props. The ride in Florida was completed in April of 1971, then in October, Magic Kingdom's version of the ride officially opened. So if everything was a duplicate, then technically the rides should be the exact same, right? Well, not quite. There are a few major differences between the two versions. So let's start at the exterior. Placing Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion in Liberty Square, the building's architecture takes on the Dutch Gothic Revival style. From the mid to late 1800s, this style was used a lot for houses in rural areas, and the design was based off the Rathbone Estate in Albany, New York. Over at Disneyland, with the Haunted Mansion placed in New Orleans Square, the architecture showcases the Victorian era, and the building was inspired off the Shipley-Lydecker House in Baltimore, Maryland. Both buildings do a great job of setting the scene in their respective lands. Now, once you're inside, the experience begins in the stretching room. This is such an iconic part of the ride, even though it's not the actual physical ride yet.
Your cadaverous pallor betrays an aura of foreboding, almost as though you sense a disquieting metamorphosis. Is this haunted room actually stretching? Or is it your imagination?
The only difference are the mechanics of the room. At Disneyland, an elevator is used to lower you. That's how they achieve the stretching effect. Whereas at Magic Kingdom, they create the illusion by actually raising the ceiling. Disneyland's also raises, but it's only by a few feet. Either way, both are effective with creating a room that stretches beyond what you initially think it's capable of. Now, since Florida had the blessing of size, they were able to expand and incorporate a couple of scenes on the actual ride at Magic Kingdom that were in the loading area at Disneyland. The hanging portraits on the right-hand side here at Disneyland are part of the first physical scene on the ride at Magic Kingdom. The ride at Disneyland starts with the hallway corridor as the first scene.
We find it delightfully unlivable here in this ghostly retreat. Every room has wall-to-wall creeps.
But at Magic Kingdom, you actually get an additional minute and a half of scenes before the hallway. So you have the hanging portraits, the extended library scene with the rotating busts, the organ room, the endless staircase, the bats, then you finally get to the hallway. So that's a pretty substantial amount of extra show scenes. This brings the total ride time at Magic Kingdom to around 7 minutes and 15-ish/30 seconds. And that doesn't include the stretching room. Whereas at Disneyland, their ride time is about 6 minutes. Now these ride times do fluctuate a bit depending on the speed of the Omnimover system and whether it's been slowed down or stopped. Usually getting a ride where it doesn't slow down or stop is kind of rare these days.
Kindly remain seated in your doom buggy, please. We will continue our tour momentarily.
Then, from the hallway until the attic, everything is pretty much the same, including that iconic ballroom scene. Now at Disneyland, you do have the Hatbox Ghost, which is super impressive, and being someone who loves animatronics, this definitely gives Disneyland's version a little leg up. Then as you descend into the graveyard, everything is practically identical again between the two rides, but there are some small subtle differences. Whether it's different lighting and color on the singing busts, or some different animatronic configurations like right here on the left-hand side. Either way, none of these differences change the ride experience. In Florida, there is an added scene at the end of the ride with little Leota. This scene at Disneyland happens as you're on the moving walkway on the left-hand side going back up to the park. I think by having every scene happen on the physical ride at Magic Kingdom, it does a better job of creating a cohesive story from the start of your ride till the end. At Disneyland, it's still cohesive, it just feels a bit more broken up. So, when it comes to the Haunted Mansion, even though Disneyland is the original, I'm gonna say Walt Disney World does this ride the best. Now, for all you Disneyland fans, you're probably disagreeing with me right now, but to further prove my point that Florida has the better version, let's turn to Tokyo. So Tokyo Disneyland is a Disney park not owned by the Walt Disney Company. It's actually owned and operated by the Oriental Land Company, and they just license all the Disney intellectual properties but still hire Disney Imagineers. Tokyo always wants the best of the best. They're not about cutting corners, and they are willing to spend large amounts of money to create premium high-quality experiences. So, Tokyo always chooses the best versions of the rides from Disneyland and Walt Disney World for their parks in Japan. They went with Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean, which is obviously superior as we know, Magic Kingdom's Jungle Cruise with the indoor temple scene and also their Splash Mountain, Disneyland's Space Mountain, and finally Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion. If Disneyland really had the better version of the ride, then you can bet Tokyo would want that one in their park. So, with all those reasons, that is why Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion is the better version of the ride. The rivers of America add a lot of kinetic energy to both Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. At Magic Kingdom, the rivers border Frontierland and Liberty Square, and the Liberty Square riverboat is based in, well, Liberty Square. Over at Disneyland, this same area of the river is adjacent to Frontierland, and it's home to the Mark Twain riverboat. Both boats have their similarities in terms of functionality and the experience, but they each share differences in their history. So let's explore that first. The Liberty Square riverboat is called the Liberty Belle, but did you know that it used to be called the Richard F. Irvine? That's right, it wasn't until 1996, after an extensive refurbishment, that the boat received a name change. The Richard F. Irvine, or the Liberty Belle today, began its service in May of 1973, so it wasn't at the Magic Kingdom on opening day, which was October 1st, 1971. But you might be thinking, now wait, the riverboat was most definitely an opening day attraction, so how could it have been brought into service in 1973? Well, here's a little fun fact that most people don't know. Magic Kingdom actually had 2 riverboats, but it was only for a brief 7-year period. The first boat that opened with Magic Kingdom was the Admiral Joe Fowler, and that went into service on October 2nd, 1971. You can see that it's an exact replica of the Mark Twain riverboat. It has 2 smokestacks and a lot more ornamental design when you compare it to the Liberty Belle. It made its way around the rivers of America until 1980 when it went into refurbishment. As they used the crane to lift the steamboat onto its dry dock, it fell from the crane and was damaged beyond repair. This explains why Magic Kingdom doesn't have the same style riverboat as Disneyland, and also Tokyo and Paris for that matter. Now over at Disneyland, the Mark Twain riverboat made its debut with the opening of the park on July 17, 1955. At the time, it was the first functional riverboat to be built in the United States in 50 years, and they built it in sections over at the Walt Disney Studios. Now, the riverboat is as vital to a Disneyland park as It's a Small World. It's not a true Disneyland-style park without it, don't you agree? Now, both the Mark Twain and Liberty Belle offer 3 passenger decks, and in terms of the ride experience, both make a one-way trip around the rivers of America. You might think the captain of these ships is in charge of the steering, but they actually ride on a track that gets them through the winding paths of the river. This year was taken back in 2018 while the river was under refurbishment. You can see the visible track running through the center, and you see just how shallow the water really is. It's not deep at all, but when it's full and the water is tinted, you truly believe you're on a free-floating leisure cruise filled with lush scenery and great views of the park. One difference with Disneyland is that you can also get the same ride experience around the river on the sailing ship Columbia, where the ride time on both is about 14 minutes, and at Magic Kingdom, it's about a 16-minute ride. So they have similar ride times. At Disneyland, you start off by seeing Frontierland, then New Orleans Square, and lastly, Critter Country. At Magic Kingdom, you start off in Liberty Square and then pass through Frontierland for the rest of the voyage. Both offer views of Tom Sawyer Island, but the major difference between the two are the show scenes around the left-hand side of the river. At Magic Kingdom, you have a couple small scenes like the alligator swamp, then you pass through the Native American village. At Disneyland, this is their Native American village, but show scenes and scenery that come before this scene really give Disneyland the upper hand. Back in the summer of 2017, Disneyland debuted this new section of the riverbanks, and it was reworked and shortened to make way for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This section accounts for 3 minutes of the ride, which is a pretty substantial portion of what would just be trees over at Magic Kingdom. They may have shortened it, but they definitely added a lot more. It breaks up the environments around the river and adds some excitement since there's a lot of detail to take in. I love this little beaver chewing the bridge post. It's sort of a little callback to a scene that Mark Davis would have designed. If it wasn't for the new river portion, then I'd say both were tied. But when it comes to the riverboat/sailing ship Columbia, I'd say Disneyland has the better version of this ride. So what are your opinions on these ride comparisons? Do you agree with my conclusions? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.